Science is very important to me. I've always wanted to be a scientist. A lot of people know since I was the age of 7 and I got my first chemistry set that my mum bought me. Absolutely fascinated and piled into that. And I actually really thought I was going to cure cancer with my chemistry set because that was, a little kid getting excited, etc. So it's been with me, frankly, all my life. I mean, I've loved it. I love invention, creation, scientific discovery. But the most important thing for me are products that come from it. What are things that you can take that can benefit people, benefit humans? And things like the discovery of penicillin, that absolutely fascinated me because, well, a lot of us would not be here if it were not for penicillin, and hence the advent of the era of all antibiotics. Infectious disease was wiping out a lot of people. So I just thought that was marvelous. But then I look back in history and you see in the 1800s, DNA was discovered for the first time. And then 70 years later, Watson and Crick elucidated the structure of DNA and double helix, etc. And then 70 years later again, here we are. It's now where we've discovered drugs which are called precision medicines based on personalized medicine, which is actually all based on the DNA, your DNA, the DNA of your disease, the genomic analysis of the illness that you've got. And that, the power of that going forward in the next 10 or 15 years is going to be felt by humans all over the planet. So that really fascinates me. Obviously as a kid, you're just mucking around with science, chemistry sets, then you go through university and degree, PhD, etc., etc. And along the way, I mean, my first one was my degree, actually, right at the end of my degree, and you're doing a project, and I sort of uncovered something, and the old prof went, oh, wow, that's new. That is new. What is it? And we knew it was a new toxin, and I'd actually isolated this thing, and it was someone else who came along a few months later when I'd left the university and then elucidated the full structure of it. And I think it was called Penetremi. Got excited by that. Didn't change the world. Changed me though. When I got sort of in other people's companies, I'm sort of working for people as a scientist, developing things that they want, etc. But really what was driving me all the time was to try and develop something I'm creating, I'm inventing, and something that's going to benefit people. I was massively, massively focused on benefiting humankind. So human medicine, human therapeutics, that's where I could see myself going. And my turning point was probably 35 years ago in Cambridge, when I created one of the first biotechnology companies in Britain and Europe. And we're doing a lot of science, we've got a lot of projects underway, a lot of them are my own ideas and my inventions. It's my business, so I'm driving everybody. And we put together and discovered how to make lung surfactant for very premature babies, using cabbages and eggs and ingredients and enzymes and mixing them in a very flashy process called reverse biocatalysis. But we actually successfully were able to make this lung surfactant and then give it to premature babies, and it looks a bit like that. In fact, that is it. And it's a very milky fluid, and that would be squirted down their little tiny mouths when they've come out. It would saturate the lungs and allow their lungs to open and close and put them in incubators. And we saved some babies. I was there, I saw it with my own eyes, and these little things would have died otherwise. They just simply suffocate. And that'd been known for a long time, but no one had ever made it. No one can make this stuff. And so that's real science, real biotechnology, real breakthrough, and you see life's being saved, and that's real. As my sort of science developed, I ended up running multiple projects trying to discover all sorts of things, and one of them was making what was known as an optically pure stereoisomer of an anesthetic called bupivacaine. It was called levobupivacaine. It became known as Chirocaine, and sold onto the market by a big pharma group. And ironically, when my wife, I didn't think about it myself, when my wife, we were having twins, two little twin boys, 23 years ago, the anaesthetist at the time said, okay, darling, I'm about to inject you with an epidural because you're having twins and it's Chirocaine. This is very safe. It's 300% safer for cardiotox reasons. I said, yeah, I know a bit about that one. That's one of mine. And she did. She had the injection. The boys were born. But then I did other things. And suddenly all these things are popping up in my world. I created, with some other colleagues, a fantastic baby monitor that monitored baby's sound, their breathing, their heartbeat, their movement, all at the same time. And so you could sit downstairs and watch Coronation Street, and this little machine is flashing. And when the sound stops, because the baby's not crying anymore, it's still monitoring its heart and its movement, etc. So this was very important. So I used those on my little babies as well, which were mine. We sold that off to a big pharma group in the States. I then went even further. I invented car security products for my Ferraris and Aston Martins, stop people stealing them. So I got into all sorts of applications of my own products. As the years sort of went on and on, I ended up I got up to a peak of over 100 projects running at the same time, all different types of science, molecular biology, genes, enzymes, proteins, RNA inhibitors, all sorts of things, stem cells. But I was particularly fascinated by stem cells. I did some of the earliest work on stem cells in the 90s and invested quite a lot of money to do this research because other people weren't doing it. And that's culminated now in a couple of products, which today, literally, as I sit here, one has been injected through the skull into the brain for people with ischemic stroke to repair the damage and return functionality back to their hands and their fingers and their legs, arm movements. And the other one is being injected into the eye for people with retinal blindness, with very, very disintegrating vision, and restoring that vision and even reversing the damage that's been done. So both of those things for me are absolutely fascinating applications of real science. And I've spent, well over a decade with both of those, developing those. But moving through gene therapy, vaccines, respiratory, there are hundreds, there are millions, in fact, millions of users of some of the respiratory products I developed years and years ago with some of my teams. But it's cancer is the big one. I find cancer it's just not going away. You hear a lot of things, cancer will be cured tomorrow, cancer, we got it cured straight. We haven't. They're coming through, and there's lots of great breakthroughs, but we're learning so much about cancer. There are hundreds of different organ cancers. There are thousands of different mutations in cancer, which all have to be recognized and treated differently. I think we need hundreds of new cancer medicines, not 6 or 7. There is no magic bullet, not that I think is coming down the track soon. So we need hundreds of them. It's a bit like the era of antibiotics. If we just invented penicillin G, that's great, but that ain't going to save the life of all the other people who get all the other bacteria. We had to evolve all of the other antibiotics. We need to do the same with cancer, and we need hundreds of them to be able to draw them in, because cancer is going to affect 1 in 2 people. It's going to be a big, big hit on this planet as we continue in the next 25 years. And I just want to be part of the solution to that problem. And so one of the key problems for me in cancer, lots of people doing research, lots of great ideas and lots of little mini breakthroughs, but God, it needs a lot of money to take those mini breakthroughs through development and into clinical trials, significant, big, well-designed clinical trials, which you do your best to make these things work. If they don't work, you've wasted your time and you've wasted your money and it's down the drain. If it works, then you're moving very close to getting this out into the marketplace, into the people, into the population. Now, that is where I want to be. You've got to be bold and brave to be right in that translational medicine, clinical, central area to develop these things. And so for the next 10 or 15 years, I'm going to put a lot of my focus, a lot of my time, and a lot of money into that area and try and take through as many new cancer medicines as I can and get them out the other side into the hands of all the big pharma groups so they can take them to the market, because that's what they're very good at doing. I got to be honest, I'm sitting looking at 12 of them this morning, and I'm as excited now as the day I had my first chemistry set. This is like starting all over again. So I got to live at least another 60 years, right? Otherwise, I just got to see this through. This is going to happen. Very, very excited about it.